So I don't know if it's the new moon that is making me think like this, but I've been thinking about this word intention and some things about how we can sort of create our own reality in a way. And I know that sounds pretty cheesy sometimes, and I think we hear about it a lot. But I had some ideas about that we can choose what we're letting in and what we're available for. And I feel like it's so easy, especially nowadays with all the media and all the information flooding in all the time. It's kind of easy to feel like, I have to be in the mix and I have to know what's going on everywhere all the time or something like that. But if you think about it, I mean, you're never going to know everything. There's always something that you're going to miss. And also, if you're taking in a lot of information, you kind of have to also be very discerning sometimes about, what is actually true and what is actually, even useful for you to know. And I've been thinking about that. So I think it's easy to get swept away in thinking about, or, just thinking in terms of, that I have to know everything and I have to, be available for everything and everyone all the time. Anything that kind of comes my way or is in my circle or in my vicinity, I have to sort of be aware of it and maybe available for it, but it's not the case. So I think it's even just a reminder for myself a little bit as well about how, you get to choose. I get to choose what I let in. And there's always something that I will miss anyway, regardless. So if I think that I'm in the loop, there's still things that I don't know, and there's still things that are not in that loop. So when it comes to news, for example, a lot of people, that I've known like to watch news on TV, and I have done that as well. I've had periods where I've always watched TV most days of the week, but I think over the past while, I've kind of converted, so to speak, to reading news, because when you're reading news, like on a news app or like website, like Google News, you have more choice over what you're actually going to put effort and attention into reading. So if you're watching TV and if you're watching news on TV, you're going to sort of you're almost going to take in and swallow everything that is presented to you, and there's less choice. But this is just an example. It's like when you're reading news, it's like, for me, it works in the sense that I get to choose more what I let in. It's just another extension of me wanting to be in control of my own energy to a certain degree and not let everything in. So if I look through a bunch of articles, let's say there's 30, 50, let's say 50 articles presented to me, I can get to choose from the headlines what I want to actually read about. So it's not about that I'm just going to look. I mean, I can look at news on TV as well, but with reading, I get to choose a little bit more like what I consume. Whereas with something like reading or something like, watching news, you don't get to do that as much. So I feel like with reading news, it's more active in a way. It's more, it takes a bit more effort, but it's also just more active. You're more intentional about what you're consuming. Whereas when you're watching news, most of the time you're just kind of letting the news stories come one after the other, and you're not being as discerning. You're just taking in what the TV gives you. But with reading news, you can just kind of choose and look and see specific things, and you have I have certain topics that I follow, and I get to go into those topics and see if there's any news about that thing. And just there's a For You section that I like where, things that I might be interested come up, and I still get to choose among those as well. If I see something that seems interesting or relevant to me, I get to choose that. So I think sometimes I forget, and we as just people, we forget that we have the ability, let's say, to be discerning and to be intentional about what we let in and what we actually put our energy into. And I think new moon periods are good times to reflect on that a little bit. And, this new moon was in Taurus, and the moon is still in Taurus. And, Taurus on one level can have to do with kind of cultivating a stable, calm way of being and a calm and stable atmosphere. And I think a lot of times we get to do that by being intentional. You have to kind of be active about your atmosphere, and you have to be active sometimes about how to be calm and how to have that stability and that, that peace of mind and that peace in general. Like, we have to kind of take control of that sometimes, so that we're not passive about being a certain way, but we're actually actively choosing. And it sounds a little bit maybe cheesy sometimes. We hear about this a lot, but it's something that I kind of have to remind myself as well, is that, like, I don't have to feel so bad about if I miss a certain news story, or if I don't know something about something that's going on, because there's things that I'm focusing on, and there's things that I'm letting in, and there's still going to be, even if I let in more things, there's still going to be some things that I won't have a clue about. And everybody's like that. We can't know everything. And so you have the right to choose what you let in, right? And what is going to enhance your life, or what is going to be interesting for you, or what is going to help you. And you don't have to take in everything that is available to be taken in. And I think sometimes it's so easy to get into these inner conflicts about, I know this from experience as well, it's easy to get into that conflict of, I want to be alone and I want to be in my own space and kind of protect my energy, but I also want to be with people, and I want to, be in the mix, and I want to know what's going on, and it's that fear of missing out. But sometimes you do have to be active about, well, what am I going to choose? Which of those am I going to choose for now? Like, am I going to be on my own and mind my own business and look at what I want to look at in terms of media or social media or news or whatever? Like, what am I available for? Or am I going to go out into the world and try to be present there and be with people and be present there? Both of those methods are better than just kind of going into the world or going into the mix and just sort of passively being in the mix, rather than actively choosing to be in the mix and like being present whatever environment you're in. So I think it's a good reminder sometimes to be present and mindful no matter what situation you're in. So if you're on your own, be mindful. If you're with people, if you're in the world, you're doing things and you're involved with things, be present there as well. And rather than kind of getting swept up in this kind of this thing about like, well, I'm going to go out into the world and just kind of just go with the flow to the point where I'm actually going to lose a sense of what I actually want to let in and what I want to be involved with. So I think it's easy to when you're with people, for example, or you're in groups or you're in certain environments, it's easy to get swept away and kind of just let go wherever others are going and just go with whatever movements or whatever is happening and go with that. But it's better to look at, well, what do I want to contribute to and what do I want to be involved with? And I'm nowhere near to the level that I would like to be with that. But I think with this new moon period, I wanted to kind of reflect on that and kind of give myself a nudge and give myself a reminder and hopefully give other people a reminder about the fact that like we get to choose what we are available for and what we let in. So no matter what you let in, there's still going to be things that you're going to miss anyway. So don't worry about not knowing everything about everything and not being available for everything. I don't think there's anything wrong with self-care and like taking action towards and being active about what you're letting in and where you're going and what you're doing. I mean, it's easy to get swept away, but it's better to be intentional. And I think the new moon periods are very good times to be intentional. It's about setting intentions. And, I don't think about this during every new moon period, but at this time I kind of did reflect on it, and I've started thinking about it more. It just seemed to coincide with the new moon in Taurus that I started thinking about this more. So I think that's pretty apt, that we get to choose what we let into our energy, and like we're going to miss things anyway. And so don't feel bad about missing certain pieces of information or something, but like go with what you're interested in and what's important to you. And also, it is good to be aware of what's going on in the world and things like that. But again, you can even be selective with that, like rather than kind of taking in whatever is there to be taken in. You can actually choose, well, I'm going to look at this news app or website, and I'm going to choose what seems relevant or interesting to me, or what are the things that I want to read about right now, rather than kind of swallowing everything that is shown to you at all times. I could probably say more, but I don't want to make this too long. I just wanted to give some of my reflections on this now that we're in the Taurus new moon period, and I hope this was interesting or helpful in some way. And if you want more from me, do subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this and if you got something out of it, and leave a comment if you have any thoughts about this. So that would be very interesting to read. Thank you so much for listening.